Using the Swing framework, you can create a visual interface for your applications. In the Swing framework, elements start with capital J. So we have J combo box, J text area, J label, J scroll pane. So the first thing we're going to do is create something called a J panel. So the data type is going to be J panel. This is at the bottom of the constructor, right below load data. And we'll call this panel. And a panel is basically a grouped visual area. We'll set that equal to new J panel. And then we'll set the layout of the panel. So panel.set layout. And the layout's going to be a new box layout. Now, a box layout enables you to align things horizontally or vertically. So we can do that within each unique panel. So in the parentheses after new box layout, we need to pass in two parameters. The first one is the element that the box layout's being applied to, so panel, and then a comma, and then we pass in the alignment, which is going to be box layout, capital B, capital L, dot page axis, all caps. So that's going to be vertical. There's also a line axis, which goes along with the flow of a line on a page, which is a horizontal layout. Go down to the next line. And then what we want to do is we want to display the panel. So we actually need to use the add method to add it to the screen. So type add, and that's a method of JFrame, which this class is extending, as you can see here. So we're putting the panel on the screen. We just pass in panel into the parentheses. The next line will create a panel for the labels. And the way it's going to work is that we'll have the combo box and then the text area going vertically, and then below that is going to be a horizontally aligned set of labels. So let's create a panel for the labels so that we can align them horizontally. So JPanel, and we'll call this label panel, and set it equal to new JPanel. Now we'll need to set the layout, so label panel dot set layout. It's going to be a new box layout as well. And in the constructor for box layout, we'll pass in label panel, and then box layout dot line axis. So remember, that's going to be horizontal. Then we're going to add the price label and the length label to the label panel. So label panel dot add. Then we'll first pass in the price label, and then on the next line, instead of directly adding in the length label, we're going to put in some space. So label panel dot add, and then in the parentheses, we're going to create space by creating something called a dimension. To do that, type in box with a capital B dot create rigid area, and then we pass in a dimension. So create a new dimension. This is going to be a horizontal and vertical dimension. So we're specifying the size of space in between the object. So the dimension constructor is going to take two parameters, first the width and then the height. So we'll pass in 15 and then 0. So we have 15 pixels in between the labels. And then we'll add in the length label. So label panel dot add, and then in the parentheses we'll pass in length label. Then we're going to add one more set of space. And this is going to be to separate the length label from the button. And so we'll copy and paste the code to create some space between the length label and the button that we're going to add in just a second. We'll set a default text for the price label. So price label dot set text, and pass in the string price, colon, $, and then 0. Now, on the next line, we'll set default text for the length label. So length label dot set text, and just pass in the string length, colon, and then 5 miles. On the next line, we're going to set the value of our combo box, and we'll automatically populate it with the data from our XML. And we'll look at how to do that right now. So combo equals new JCombo box, and in the parentheses, we're going to pass in an array of items. And to get the array, we'll type titles, which is an array list, dot to array. That'll automatically populate the combo box with all of the elements from our XML data. And then panel.add combo. On the next line, panel.add, and here we're going to create some vertical space. So box.create rigid area, pass in a new dimension. And the dimension is going to be 0 for the width and 15 for the height. Remember that the panel is aligning items vertically along the page axis, not to be confused with the label panel, which is using the line or horizontal axis. On to the next line. Text scroller equals new JScroll pane. This is a scrollable area. And in the parentheses of the constructor, we'll pass in text area and then a comma, scroll pane, capital S, capital P, constants, dot vertical scroll bar as needed, all caps separated by underscores. And then a comma, we'll pass in a value for the horizontal scroll bars. So scroll pane constants, dot horizontal scroll bar never. And to the next line, text area dot set line wrap, pass in true. Next line, text area dot set rows, and that's going to be an integer, and the number of rows we want to display is 10. This essentially controls the vertical size of the text area. Text area dot set wrap style word, and pass in true. So this does word wrap instead of a letter wrap. Then we'll add the text scroller to the panel. So panel.add, and in the parentheses pass in text scroller. On to the next line. Panel.add, and we'll put in some more space. And so we'll type box.create rigid area. We'll pass in a new dimension. And that'll be 0 for the width and another 15 for the height. Make sure to add a semicolon to close out that statement. And then we're going to add the label panel to the main panel. So panel.add, pass in the label panel. Then finally we'll create the button and put it inside of the label panel. So JButton, capital B, will be the data type. Call this btn. Set it equal to a new JButton. And in the constructor we'll pass in the string book now. This is the string that's going to be on the button. And on the next line, label panel dot add, and then we'll pass in the button. And finally, for the last line, we'll set an initial item selected in the combo box. So combo dot set selected index, pass in 0, semicolon to add that statement. And after we've typed this massive block of code, let's save and test, and we should see the visual elements in the window. I'm going to test this as a Java application and click OK. And there's my window. It's the appropriate size. I have the combo box with all of the data populated from the XML, some space, and then I have a text area that's 10 lines high. And then I have the default text labels that are organized with the button horizontally, and there's space between them and the text area. So I'll close out that. So we've successfully used the Swing framework to create a layout for our app. Remember that when you're using the Swing framework, use the add method to place an object on the screen, and use an array to populate a combo box.